Hey, welcome World Entertainment, and we're going to have a little discussion about the possible sequel to Alien Romulus, because Fede Álvarez has started to speak about the plans for the next one and what it's actually going to take for it to actually happen. Because he's not just saying, oh, we're absolutely just going to jump into it and stuff. He's actually saying flat out, it has to be worth telling. So I like that approach. At the same time, when you look at Alien Romulus, even though I enjoyed it and stuff, again, that third act, woof, but you could still see where the influences were from all the other movies. And I think, although if you're kind of not totally into the nostalgia bait, basically, you know, if that's the type of thing that just irritates you, it wouldn't work for you. I didn't personally mind that. But you'd also want it to be kind of its own thing. I still don't think the idea of moving forward with a sequel to Romulus specific is a wise idea. I think the world of Alien is so big that you could move forward and do something completely different. But let's have a look at this anyway. So it's saying Alien Romulus was a success at the box office while also proving to be a big hit with critics. And 20th Century Studios boss Steven Asbell recently confirmed that early plans are in place for a sequel. Director Fede Álvarez has now indicated that he is in talks to return, while explaining why he's hesitant to move forward until they have a story worth telling. So here's what he says to Gizmodo. This is what he was talking about with all this. Well, I mean, we definitely want to do it. The studio wants to do it. I want to do it. I think with sequels, it's always about finding the right story. Me and Rodo, my co-writer, we have some ideas, but it's not until we find something that we go, okay, that is a movie worth making, that we really embark on it. So that's the process we are in right now. Trying to find a story that is worthy of everyone's time and is worthy of the title. So that's also interesting what he says there. But he continued on saying, otherwise, you never want to fall into the mistake of making a sequel just because the first one is a big hit. Making a sequel just because you can make it. That's always a recipe for disaster. Is that a shot at Warner Brothers for the Joker? I wonder. So it's saying there are obviously a number of ways to continue the story, but a follow-up will almost certainly revisit the survivors of the previous movie, Rain and her android brother, Andy. So, Asbell said in an interview last month the two survivors, Rain and Andy, played by Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, were really highlights of the film. And so I always think of it like, wow, where do people want to see them go next? We know there's going to be aliens. We know there's going to be a great horror set piece. But I fell in love with both of them and I want to see what their story is. Now, that's what Asbell said, and that's when he pretty much indicated and confirmed that, yes, a sequel to Romulus was in early development. What's interesting about what Fede Álvarez said there, though, was there's no point just telling a story because we can't. There's no point telling it just because the first part was successful and stuff. And he's saying we need to make sure it's a story worth telling and all that. You notice nowhere does he say we have to figure out how to tell more stories with these characters. Isn't that interesting? He doesn't actually mention the survivors, Rain and Andy. It almost sounds like he's specifically saying, what's the next step? Where do we go with the franchise after Romulus? Romulus was the story we wanted to tell. We told it. Where do we go from there? And I think that's quite interesting that he isn't bringing up the idea of it being a direct Romulus sequel. So maybe this could be what he's talking about, where he's saying we need to get it right and take our time with it. Maybe he thinks the studio want him to rush it because it's like, hey, look, Romulus was successful. Get the sequel in the works. Maybe he sees Asbell saying, oh yeah, Rain and Andy, more stories with them. But him and his co-writer and stuff could be sitting there going, well, we've already done Rain and Andy. Their story's finished. You know, there's nowhere to go with more stories with them two characters. Especially seeing as where would you end up putting them? Because are you saying, well, we're going to set them up like what, a year before Aliens? Maybe 2 years after Aliens? Don't know. I think the proper way to go about it would be to just come up with a whole brand new story, maybe brand new timeline, jump it forward, like way forward, and ignore all the characters we've already known. You know, don't put yourself in an area where people are going to be sitting there going, well, where's Ripley? Is she out there at this stage? Or have people going, why are we still following Rain and Andy? It's interesting, but it's also encouraging to see a director that's not just jumping at the chance to do a sequel because the first one did well enough and the studio obviously want more. He is seemingly going, you know, we need to make sure it's a story worth telling. We're not just going to do it for the sake of doing it. So I like that. But anyway, let us know what you think about what Fede Álvarez has said and what you thought of Alien Romulus. Do you want more Alien movies? I know a lot of people really don't. They're kind of done with it at this stage. I understand that as well. But let us know anyway. So with that, I shall leave it there for this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.